All right, next up, we got a bantamweight finale here for the road to UFC between Sulangrangbo coming in at minus 245, going up against City Kickboxing representative Lawrence Liu, who comes in at plus 215. Now, starting off on the Sulangrangbo side, I'm going to go with Su. You know what I mean? Breaking down his first road to UFC fight, I'm like, this guy reminds me of Sumudarji, right? A guy that strikes very well. Obviously, their name starts with Su, so, there must be some sort of connection there. And John Gooden on the broadcast ended up confirming that, as Sulangrangbo is a cousin of Sumudarji. So for the ease of this breakdown, I'm going to just go with Su. I'm not going to go with the whole name here for the guy. He's a very talented striker. He's only 20 years old. A lot of his losses came much earlier in his career, but he is a guy that does a great job in terms of implementing his footwork, his movement, his range management is very high level as well. And I think that helps him lean on that striking style and staying away from the grappling of his opponents. I thought that was on clear display last time around against Kai Jiang, a guy that I thought was a better mixed martial artist, at least a more well-rounded mixed martial artist. But Jiang could not get in on a takedown to save his life. Jiang moved laterally a lot, stayed on the outside, tried to time takedowns, but he couldn't sniff a good enough takedown attempt to really expose that side of Su's game. But you have to give credit to Su in terms of improving that side of his game. We know he's a striker. We know he wants to let his hands go, but he has to keep fights standing if he really wants to have success. And I think we saw that on full display against Jiang. Now, he's only 20 years old, but this guy's been fighting since a kid, right? Since he was a child, pretty much. There's footage, if you look hard enough, that you can find him from his earlier days, as a wee little lad going out there and fighting guys and really fucking them up too. So, he does a good job in terms of utilizing that experience from earlier on in his career to now, where he's fighting tougher and tougher competition. Now it's all about continuing to accrue that experience against tougher competition so that he can be more effective as he gets into his mid-20s and his late 20s, and may even go down as a really good fighter if he can continue the trend and trajectory that he's currently on. Now he's going up against Lawrence Liu, who's on a 4-fight winning streak right now. His only loss came against former Contender Series alum Anthony Drillich, a fight that he ended up losing by split decision. It was a very close fight, but it kind of showed some of the holes in Liu's game, and we've seen some of those holes in Liu's game even in his 2 road to UFC fights. The first one, we saw him try to lean on his background, which is that striking, but he couldn't really get the better of Zhang. So then he relied on his grappling in the second and third rounds to really grind that fight out, and he was able to get the win there. He tried to use the grappling again against his last opponent, but he was really getting touched up on the feet in the first round. But then in the second round, he managed to corral his opponent very well up against the cage, and he unleashed with a nasty combination that put his opponent down and out. This 29-year-old represents City Kickboxing, and I think a lot of that, similar to Aaron Tao from the last matchup, is rubbing off on the betting lines sometimes. Maybe not so much this much because people see the discrepancy in skills, but he's a little bit, well-rounded. I'd say he's a better striker than a grappler, but it really comes down to the type of opponent he has ahead of him. This weekend, he goes up against Sulangrangbo, who I think is a better striker. Obviously Liu, 9 years his elder, but Su looks a little bit more crisp. He moves his feet a little bit better. He crashes the pocket a little better. He's a little bit straighter with his shots. He might even be a little bit faster. I wouldn't be surprised to see Liu look to actually drag this fight to the ground, and I think he's going to struggle to do so. He might be stronger. He might have a little bit more of that man strength, if that's what you want to call it. But I think he's going to struggle to get too much control time here. And I think that will allow Su to continuously counter Liu whenever Liu tries to crash the pocket or engage in the grappling realm. And I think we see Su just piece him up, touch him up. I'm not 100% sure if he'll actually be able to muster up a finish here. But I think that we see Su touch him up, get the decision win, and I don't mind him at this minus 245 line either.